Welcome back to Medrash Umaisa, sharing a story for this week's Parsha in Eretz Yisrael, Parshas Balak, but that always applies to the Parsha of life. This story was told by the great Chabiner Rav, Dober Schweidenfeld Zatzal. It involved his father, and as you'll see, a story within a story. It took place at a famous wedding in pre-war Europe. There were two great Hasidic dynasties, the Rizhiner dynasty, the Chernobler dynasty. And there was a wedding between two branches of these dynasties. From the Rizhiner dynasty, there was the Hushatner Rebbe, whose granddaughter was getting married, his granddaughter Chaya. And the son of the Chernobler Rebbe, the Trisker Magid, Rabbi Avromev Trisk, was the chassan. So Hasidim from all the different groups came, Rabbonim, and at the chuppah, the Hushatner Rebbe had already gone up to stand at the chuppah, and everything was ready to go, but the Trisker Rebbe did not come down. The Trisker Magid was taking his time coming to the chuppah. Tzadikim do what Tzadikim do. They do what they do when they do it. However, there was one person who didn't feel that way. There was a chesed of the Hushatner Rebbe who was very upset by this. He felt it was a chutzpah for his Rebbe to have to stand there waiting, especially for somebody younger than him, to come down. When the Trisker Magid came down to the chuppah, this chesed had pushed himself close, and as the Rebbe walked by, there were a few versions as to what exactly happened. We'll pick one. He stepped on the long rashvulka, on the long coat that the Rebbe was wearing, causing him to trip a bit as he went down. This caused some consternation. The chuppah went on, but afterwards the Rebbe called over his chassid, the Hushatner Rebbe called over his chassid, and he called over the Trisker Magid, and he said, you have to be mazmin, you have to invite, so to speak, this chassid to a din Torah. And the reason why they wanted to do this was because ksheyesh din lamato, ein din lamala. If Beis Din takes care of a transgression here in this world and decides what has to be done, so then whatever din, whatever judgment is on the person from above, will also be satisfied by what the Beis Din decides. The chassid was beside himself. As soon as he did that stupid act, he realized what a terrible thing he did. And here, he was going to have to sit in a din Torah where his own Rebbe, the Hushatner Rebbe, and the Holy Trisker Magid were the side that were prosecuting, so to speak, that brought him in. He spent the whole night crying and doing tshuva, and he didn't know what he would do. The Tzadikim decided that the Dayan was going to be Rabbi Yaakov of Harimlov, right, known by his sefer, the Kochav Miyakov, one of the greatest poskim of the entire generation, known as Rabbi Yekele, they called him. He was the father of the Chabiner Rav. So the next day, the chassid appeared, and when they asked him what he has to say, he cried, and he expressed his regret. He didn't know what to say, but he was clearly beside himself. So the Dayan, Rabbi Yekele, said, it's hard to know what to do when you don't have a clear halacha in Shulchan Aruch, in the poskim, in the Shalos and Tshuvas about such a case. However, what we can do is look for a precedent. And I remembered a precedent. He said there was a story in the town of Ostroh, and there was a Rosh HaKol. The Rosh HaKol was somewhat the Jewish mayor, the head of the Jewish community. And he was a fine man. He was a good man. He was a kind man. He was a devoted man. But there was one man in the community who somehow felt that the Rosh HaKol wasn't treating him properly. He felt he always built up this conspiracy theory that the Rosh HaKol was preventing him from progressing in life, that the Rosh HaKol was causing him harm. And he started to act on this. He used to insult the Rosh HaKol publicly. And at one point, he was called into Din Torah. He came in before the Tzaddik Rabbi Yebi, who was the Rav in the town. Rabbi Yebi was a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov, the Maggid of Mezrich. So they came to this Din Torah, and Rabbi Yebi looked at the man, And he said, I understand what's happening here. He said, the Rosh HaKol is a good man. He said, this man is a very poor, suffering man. In the pain of his suffering and his difficulty, he has a warped picture of the Rosh HaKol. He's built up this image of him as an evil person who has it in for him. We simply have to repair that picture. Therefore, he says, my Psak din is that you, the Rosh HaKol, should hire this man to work for you. He's been out of work for so long. He's impoverished. He's hungry. His children have nothing. He will work for you, and he'll get to know you, and you'll support him, and you'll take care of him, and then the problem will be taken care of. That's my precedent, said Rabbi Akiva. Therefore here, he says, I deliver the following psak. The Trisker Maggid is known for his power of brocha. He says, I paskin that the Trisker Maggid should give this man who stepped on his coat a tremendous brocha. He too is suffering. His upsetness was not out of the kavod for his Rebbe. He's just bitter. He's miserable. I checked into him. He's poor. He has 4 daughters at home. He has no way to marry them off because he's so poor. If the Trisker Maggid will give him a brocha for Ashiras, when that brocha is Mekayim, bless him with wealth, with great wealth and all good things. And when that will be fulfilled, he will understand who the Trisker Maggid is, and his hostility will go away. This was the Psak, which was accepted by the Trisker Maggid, who gave the man the wonderful brocha. And the Chabiner Rav said he knew people from that family. The brocha was mekuyim very, very much. And the man became not only continuing as a Ushatner chesed, but he became a great admirer and follower of the Trisker Maggid as well. The Parsha of Balak is about brochas and klalas. Bilam tried to bring klala into the world. What we learn from these stories is that sometimes there's even a situation, a story that seems to be one of negativity, of klala, that tzadikim know how to turn it into the brocha. As the Chabiner Rav would say when he finished that story, he says, a chacham knows how to find an eitzah. A chacham knows how to find the right pathway in such situations. Wishing us all peace and bracha and all good things. Have a wonderful Shabbos, Kol Tov.